If you really want to achieve a dream in life, then being persistent and really ignoring also all these negative skepticism. Sailing is always perceived as an elite thing for rich people. This is not the professional kind of sailing we do, no, nothing to do with that. Be curious, be looking for ideas to change things. At every moment you are conscious of the risk.
With us today is Boris Herrmann, a world-class sailor and climate advocate. He made history as the first German to complete the solo non-stop Vendée Globe race around the world, placing in the top 5. But Boris isn't just sailing for sport. His boat, Team Malizia, is also a floating science lab that collects CO2 and climate data in remote parts of the ocean. He's also working with kids around the world to raise awareness about the ocean and climate change.
Hi, I'm Cyrielle Hariel, journalist, activist, and explorer of Bluetiful stories, the people that spark hope and drive action to restore our blue planet.
The ECOALF podcast.
Hi Boris, thank you so much for joining us on Bluetiful Stories and especially to welcome us on board of the Malizia Explorer. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So first question, Boris, how are you today after the baptism of this new ship?
I'm very excited about this new adventure program starting. This ship is for science, but also, the title of this show is really fitting well because we are exploring the beauties also of our blue planet.
For sure. And for those who don't know you yet, who is Boris? Who are you?
I am a sailor. I'm German. I have sailed 6 times around the world in races. But I grew up at the sea with sailing with my parents when I was even very little. So each time I come on a boat, it kind of calms me down. I think it must be a thing from this childhood. I feel really at home on boats or near the sea, and that's where I spend most of my time.
So yeah, you got into sailing because of your dad, or thanks to your dad. Yeah.
Yes.
And why are you still attracted to sailing? Why? Why are you attracted and to feel maybe you have this kind of energy when you are on the sea, very just alone for a few days, few months? Where do you have this energy came from?
Very simply, the small movement of the boat at anchor, we feel it even right now. We are here on the boat and it's moving a little bit. And this is enough to probably trigger subconscious memories from my childhood, growing up, always being on the boat. And then if we add to that the wind in the mast and the sounds, and then that must be a very deeply embedded connection that I feel with being on boats. I earn my living with sailing projects and the racing, but it is absolutely my passion to pursue these projects. And so this has always been the case. Even like teenagers, we have already been racing boats and we have been traveling around. And when we didn't have a driving license, so to get somewhere we needed to combine train and bike, and sometimes it took ages to get somewhere to sail. And this was always my life. It has always been my life to sail.
But how did you go from local racing to tackling global competitions?
Very progressively. I would say I even had a late start in my sailor's life. If you think of the best competition sailors, they sometimes at the age of 10 they compete already, and maybe at the age of 15 they are world champion. And the optimist is the little square kid's boat. I only started racing at 16, but I think that even permitted me to access the sailing really through this kind of very natural, fun-driven curiosity. We were like chasing each other in the boats and playing ball and kind of trying to discover the corners of our little lake. And so it's really a playful way that has always been the dominant thing. And then I got more and more fascinated by the racing only when I got older. So now I forgot your question in the meantime.
Oh, it was like this. How did you go from local to global?
Okay, that was the thing. Basically, with the age of 16, I I read books and saw movies about the Vendée Globe. This crazy
Do
French
you
race.
remember the title of books or the documentary?
I totally recall the moment even of seeing one of these documentaries like it was yesterday. It was on Arte, the TV channel Arte.
The French-German channel?
Exactly, and there was Loïc Perron and other sailors like that. They were doing the kind of the first and the second Vendée Globe, and there were like archive images of these Vendées mixed together, and it was kind of an instant fascination, like a virus that hit me, and it got to me, and I was 15, 16. Then I read shortly after that a book from Pete Goss, kind of Close to the Wind or something like that it's called, and also read a book about an American young lady that was the youngest to circumnavigate the globe alone, and this completely, I was like very kind of immediately convinced that the day I finish school and will be free from this obligation to go to school, and I just want to start sailing around the world.
It's gonna be my life at this
Absolutely,
time,
yes.
finally. In 2008, you co-skippered Beluga Race to win the Portimao Global Ocean Race, and you were the first. It was your first full circumnavigation. Can you tell us a bit about what this race involved?
Yeah, the first circumnavigation for me was a big revelation, a big discovery, because we had a small project, just small budget, so we were doing everything on our own, and it was like an apprenticeship of basically doing a great outcome with very little means. And this became a theme throughout. Even now with this project, with Malizia Explorer, we are trying to do impactful things with reasonable means. So really to get the best out of the chance we have having this boat. So that started then. We were only the two of us. It was a race for two people, and in the stopovers of this race around the world, it took 8 months in total, and we won it at the end. We did everything on our own. We didn't ever fly anywhere. We just stayed with the boat. We had guest families, local guest families who hosted us. So we really spent a little minimum budget on this trip, and we really discovered starting the leg from Cape Town, first time going into the Southern Ocean. That was like jumping off a cliff in my life even. I remember I was super scared starting there, and then going towards Cape Horn later on as well. So that was just really exploring the world and opening up new horizons for us.
Maybe it's a kind of my next, the answer of my next question. What did that race teach you about sailing at the highest level?
That race, 2008, that was the first big ocean race in my career, and it was not at the highest level yet. We were really good in achieving a big thing with a small project, small team. But the higher levels offshore sailing, that came only later.
With Vendée Globe.
Yeah, and it was really bigger professional teams with so many people around, and this data analysis and making everything super precise and so on. That was only coming later.
So now, let's go to 2020 and 2021. You became the first German to complete the Vendée Globe, finishing in
5th place, yeah.
after 80 days alone at sea. Can you tell us a bit about this race and about all the kind of challenges?
Yeah, the Vendée Globe was this mystical
For the
adventure.
first time.
Yeah, for me, that was this thing since I was 16, and now I was probably almost 40 when I did it. So it took me really a long part of my life to get there. And I was always longing, trying to build a project, trying to find a sponsor. This is really the difficult thing as well.
We have to tell, we have to tell about it, that it's just an amazing, it was a dream, and it's still a dream to you to be a sailor and to be a part of the big race, but it's very challenging. When you are on land, you have to get your partnership and blah, blah. Can you share about your journey? Now maybe it's easier for you, but at the beginning, what's your message for young sailor?
Yeah. Vendée Globe is not only taking the boat and going sailing. It's usually about at least 4 years of preparation. And a boat like that needs equipment and stuff around, so there's a certain need for financial resources and partnerships with sponsors. So that's really the tricky part also, to get that going. I think there are many people, very capable sailors, dreaming of the Vendée Globe and wanting to do it, but only a fraction can actually do it. And it's an amazing privilege, and I think it was the persistency in my...
This is the advice, yeah?
Yeah, persistence.
Don't give up.
Exactly. If you really want to achieve a dream in life in general, not only as a sailor,
Globally,
but
yeah.
then, yeah, being persistent and really ignoring also all this negative kind of skepticism. Like, at first it would be my parents, my dad in particular. After was 18, I had already done a sponsored transatlantic solo race, the mini transat, and after that he told me, no, professional sailing, what should that be? You need to study, you need to do this and that. And
No
anyway,
way, your dad.
This cannot never be alive. And anyway, racing, why? You know, the ocean is for the freedom, you shouldn't compete unless it's stupid. So, you know, you need to ignore many things from Europe.
And how did you manage that, to ignore what your father said to you at this time of your life?
Yeah, that's really thanks to my dad, that he...
You were like this for...
No, we were very close. We had a very close relationship because also my parents were kind of separated. So I grew up only with him. So we were like best friends as well. And we had a relationship.
But you didn't listen his advice.
Well, but he gave me the freedom also to not listen. Like, that was a bit his style of education, to say, okay, I advise you this, but if you do something else, it's your own responsibility.
Listen to your heart,
go for that.
son.
And that was usually a smart way. If I would stay out long at night, he would say, okay, I advise you to come back at midnight, but if you stay longer, I like kind of, you make your own experience that then it's hard to get to school the next morning or something like that, you know.
I love the story.
So anyway, yeah, I kind of, I experienced also that, you know, sailing is always perceived as an elite thing for rich people. Like we're here in Monaco with these big yachts. This is not sailing. This is not the professional kind of sailing we do. No, nothing to do with that. And it's even the opposite of what you might think, is that the kids from the richest families struggle the most sometimes to pursue kind of very ambitious sport careers, because they have even higher pressure from their entourage to become family successor and doctor or manager or whatever.
A real businessman, not a sailor.
Yeah, or kind of a status imagination, and all these expectations are even stronger in kind of a large, wealthy family. It's much harder, I guess, to get free, to make yourself free of these things and become a sailor. I mean, that would be a completely unusual thing, to have someone from a wealthy family become suddenly a sailor. There are very few exceptions. So most of us doing the Vendée Globe or things like that are actually completely normal people from very simple backgrounds with a strong dream and strong persistence pursuing this dream.
How did maybe the Vendée Globe race change your standing in the sailing world?
I mean, the 2021 Vendée Globe was a crazy hype. It was a crazy exception for one particular reason, or a couple of reasons. I mean, first, I was the first German to ever do it. Then I almost won it at the end. I had a big crash, so it was a strong story. I did decently well communicate the emotions, what happened, and it was kind of an approachable way of talking to the people. So they could follow me and kind of more and more get into it. But the real kind of thing that made this Vendée Globe very big was that we had the COVID crisis. People were at home, and most sports events were cancelled. There was no soccer, which in Germany, in every evening news, you have like 10% of the news is about soccer, and then a tiny bit of tennis, and then a bit of Formula One, and that's it. So here we just had nothing happening, just the Vendée Globe. And it's every day, it's 24/7 during 3 months, and I'm climbing up the ranks little by little, and one TV station picks it up, then the next one, and the next one, and then suddenly we were every evening on the 8 p.m. news for like 10 days of the end of the race. So you couldn't be more present in the media space at that time, because the other sport normal platforms were just not possible to go ahead with the COVID problem. And also people were at home kind of landlocked, dreaming of going out, being free and getting out of their house.
We are in jail in our home, please,
And
please.
this made a huge effect. So really all of Germany followed me at one stage a little bit here in the race, and suddenly it became really strong.
And now a more personal question, Boris. When you're far from it, on land for too long, what do you miss the most?
First of all, I'm never for a long time away from boats and sailing, luckily. So I'm just really blessed.
What do you mean about not too long?
I mean, it can be a couple of months that I go back to Hamburg and I consolidate and do the office planning and the work. That's part of the job, right? To go to these companies, to present, to attach other layers than just the sport. Especially in our case, we do a lot of that. That can be 3 months, but it's rarely that it's more than 3 months that I'm not kind of coming back to Brittany, to the team, to the workshop, to the shed, to being involved on the boat. So,
Boris, someone told me that you have vertigo. So could you tell us how do you manage when you have to climb your 29-meter mast to manage your fear? Please. Maybe you can demonstrate us.
Yeah, it is difficult to climb a mast, especially when you are sailing alone in the Vendée Globe. Because, if you even, twist a bit your ankle, like that happened to Seb Simon in this last Vendée Globe, he didn't even have to climb very far, just 2 meters. He twisted his ankle, Vendée Globe was over. So at every moment you are conscious of the risk of losing your big ambition to win the race.
How many times to reach?
So in the last Vendée Globe, I did climb the mast 2 times. And the first time went pretty well. And the second time I struggled a lot. And that was really from the mind, that I was a little bit more hesitant. And then it wasn't the flow of the different steps and movements with all the climbing gear. And it took really long. It took 40 minutes to get up.
40 minutes.
And I did this second repair job towards the evening in offshore Brazil, in the seas in the east of Brazil. And I just told my team I'm gonna go up the mast, and it took me 3 hours. And they were getting, after an hour and a half, they were starting to get worried, and I didn't look on my phone. I had it with me up there, but it's not as easy to access with all the bells and stuff. And then I came down, it was pitch black, dark night and everything, and I just saw hundreds of messages. Oh, where are you?
Are you live? Yeah, I was just...
They were already on the phone with the race direction to check in. Not that they could have done anything, but they were actually very worried. And the technique to not stress out so much, I learned something from a mental coach with tapping and breathing. And I tap, and so while I climb up, I just remember that and breathe a bit deeply into the stomach. And it reminds me of these calming techniques, and then it helped me really to calm down.
Could you explain the technique?
There are certain points here, here, and here, where it has an impact on your nervous system. You can kind of provoke swapping the nervous system from sympathicus to parasympathicus. So one is the stress stages that you need to be activated to run away. Like deeply embedded genetically, we have these 2 stages of nervous system, and the other one is the relaxing one where you can sleep, digest, and recover, and you can provoke that swap. If you train it a lot, you can do it very quickly and swiftly.
You did this during when you were climbing?
Well, not the tapping, but the breathing, and because it's so connected after a time, the breathing is into the stomach and then out through the nose, and you can do it even without anyone noticing. And so that helped me a lot.
After gaining international attention, you formed Team Malizia, a racing team with a mission that goes beyond sport. The team competes in major offshore races and collects climate data using sensors on board your high-speed IMOCA yacht. And now, with your second boat, the Malizia Explorer, you've shifted part of your mission towards science. So first, why did you decide to launch your own team with Pierre instead of joining an existing one?
So this question concerns the racing activity, right? Because Pierre and I, we created Team Malizia 2016 to race. And there was only racing in the beginning. And I said to him, look, Pierre, we don't have so many sponsors. We have a lot of black space in the sail. Let's use this kind of floating racing billboard to promote some good messages to protect the ocean and some plaidoyer, put something on it.
And why do you have this commitment first?
Well,
Why
my
did you want
also.
to spread?
My dad was deeply politically active in his life. He was even radical a little bit. And not so much about environment, but more generally about politics. And I grew up like in politically agitated times, and him even more from coming from the student movement time and all of that. So I think I grew a little bit up with this idea that you need to be politically engaged and I was
to have a purpose.
To have a purpose.
To use your notoriety.
And kind of wanting to change something all the time. Maybe that's a little bit part of it too.
You want to have a legacy?
No, not.
What kind of legacy do you want to leave?
It's not. I don't want to have any legacy, or it's nothing to do with the ego, I think. But it's really kind of the desire to relate to the world that we live in, to the society. It's even the idea of society. That we are not just individuals, totally isolated, doing our thing. And I have very good friends who sometimes are a little bit more in this space, where I think all their stuff turns around the optimization of their life. The best job, the best free time, the best relationship, going to the coach so they can have a better, being fitter. But it's all for themselves. It's like this never-ending self-optimization thing. And this is really not so much my nature. It's more like I want to feel a connection with the world we live in, because I think we are a society where people interact and are connected, and we are a group. And I feel happier in groups. And if we are kind of having as a group the feeling of doing something together, then I feel the most alive and activated. So that on a boat like this, when we are 14 or 20 people sailing from A to B trying to do something, this is kind of a deeply embedded thing that motivates me a lot. So on a general, but then we don't only want to have a good time together, but use the boat for ocean conservancy and ocean science, of course.
Could you explain, to maybe after we're going to visit the boat with you, but what's the purpose, the core of this mission of Team Malizia?
So this is a 26-meter sailboat with the possibility for up to 14 people to live comfortably for a long time at sea. So it's really a floating home. It moves from A to B only with the power of the wind. I mean, most of the times there's no wind, or if there are ice blocks and we need to navigate through something, we have, of course, an engine, but it's really the possibility of living with very little impact, carbon impact or emissions. We have water makers, we have solar panels, and so this is
and a lab for collecting climate data.
So this is a platform, and then we have scientific equipment that's added to it, and more is going to come, and sometimes specific equipment that scientists bring. And we have a small crew sailing, and a larger group of scientists, 5 to 7, can then come, and we bring them to places where they can do useful stuff. And yeah, that's the idea. And then also to not just purely doing the science, but also communicate about what they're doing, why it's important, what's happening with the environment we live in. And I believe that we can communicate this in a compelling way, because, I mean, it's a boat and it's kind of adventurous. It's not easy to do it. It's not easy to get to Antarctica with 7 scientists who don't really know how to sail. So this is kind of a little bit a reality show at the same time.
Yeah, for sure,
and so I hope to really inspire curiosity and love for the ocean and curiosity around these ocean questions. And there are so many fascinating things to develop, to discover, and to understand how many things we don't know. That's the fascinating
And we
thing.
don't know nothing. about the ocean. So you've got a partnership with the institute like GeoMar and Max Planck Institute for Meteorology, that's right?
Yeah, so
Why this kind of partnership with this kind of institute?
Of course, I'm not a scientist. Us as the Malizia team, we are not scientists. So we collaborate with the big science institutes, oceanographic institutes, or the Alfred Wegener Institute is the large German polar research institute. They support us financially with equipment, but also we closely collaborate to determine the track of the boat and the itinerary. And then they send scientists and they ask us, okay, we want you to be for this 4 weeks, for example, this year, in end of July in the Cape Verde Islands to do a very specific mission there. And then a certain time in December in Antarctica to do another specific mission there.
Okay. So now we're in Monaco. So what's the future of this boat after?
We are in Monaco, and in about a week's time, the boat will set sail, go west towards Valencia, Denia, to this region, and work with an NGO called Tetis. They work on whale research. They have a 40 years legacy, and we will host them on board, their scientists, and we will kind of drift along the migration path of fin whales, and they will go out from here to tag the whales and conduct a little bit of their science on board.
Can I go? Can I join?
Yeah, please come. There's still space. It's not a very large group. And then we continue on to Gibraltar, down the African coast to the Cape Verde Islands, where we work for 4 weeks. Then we hope to pursue another mission on Fernando Noronha, which is an island and natural reserve of Brazil, with another NGO, and then down the American coast, South American coast, and then there's 3.5 months of activity in Antarctica.
Okay,
over
amazing.
the winter.
What a trip! And where would you be at this time with you? Between the land?
Myself.
Yeah.
I would be racing most of the time, or between my racing and my obligations was keeping my racing team running, with partnership commitments and conferences and speaking engagements and all this. So I will not be much on the boat. We'll come a little bit I will come to the project in Valencia, and maybe to the Cape Verdes for a time. But also in the same time, it hurts me little bit to fly around all the time. I don't want to live or not so much just a jet set life all the time. So I kind of moderate that a bit if I can, and so really this is I remain a racing sailor, but us as a team, we had the opportunity to start this project, and I will probably be 1 to 2 months per year physically involved.
To join
on the boat.
here.
But the idea is really to build this up over the next 5 to 10 years. So at some stage, I will probably not do the Vendée Globe over and over again, and then maybe have more time for this.
What do you think sailing can uniquely offer to climate science?
Sailing can have two things. First of all, we have a young generation of scientists who come to us specifically to come on board. We are not the only vessel doing this. There's also Tara, there's Forel, there's Under the Pole, there's Eugen Seibold. So there are a few other sailing research boats. And some young conscious climate scientists are coming. They want to do their climate science with the least impactful way for the climate. So
yeah, but do you see other racing team doing the same thing?
Yes, there are other racing teams. For example, there's a famous project, it's called the Energy Observer. And the man from Saint-Malo who started that, he is a former racing
Victorien Russard.
Exactly, and they build up a project to showcase cleaner technology. So this, we're not the only ones doing that. And what I was saying, so these young scientists want to come to conduct science with the least harmful way and do the least emission possible. And that's one thing. The other thing is that with a boat like this, you can go into smaller creeks, into flatter water, and you can be a bit more flexible in having only, let's say, 2, 3, 4 to 7 scientists on board. Is a totally different story than on a large vessel where they have up to 150 people maybe, or like let's say on Polar Stern they have 50 scientists. They all have their thing super dialed in, and if they see, oh, there's now an eddy suddenly here which we would like to measure, or low pressure, and so they cannot just divert the route all the time. So we can be really much more focused on smaller missions and therefore be more flexible. So there are pros and cons. Of course, there's some larger equipment we cannot take on this boat, and it's easier to get seasick on this and so on. It's not all only
great,
easy,
it's
but
great.
there are reasons, it's really complementary, and the idea is that the flotilla of these boats, these sailing research boats, complements the classical research vessels.
What's next just for Team Malizia? Are you preparing for another Vendée Globe or something new? Tell us everything.
We are preparing for another Vendée Globe, 2028, 29, and I committed to that very early, already last summer. And together with our partners, we made these plans up to 2030 with an ongoing racing program, and decided to build a new boat for that, a new race boat.
Do you know the name?
Malizia 4.
Malizia 4.
Malizia 4, the current boat is Malizia 3, the current race boat. It's actually racing today. They do a qualification voyage for a race at the end of this year, which I'm not participating in.
Why?
I cannot do everything, and so the year after the Vendée Globe I do one race less basically. But the big highlight this year is the Ocean Race Europe, starting in Kiel on August 10th. And going in stops with the whole crew around Europe. We are even passing Monaco on the, like one of the last Sundays in August. We have a turning mark here in front on our leg from Nice to Genoa. We are passing here midday on the, 31st August or so.
In August, okay, perfect.
And yeah, so that's the big race this year. And then we have the new boat coming next year, preparing for that, doing 2 transatlantic races. And in 27 we do the ocean race. So this is the other big race around the world, but with crew and with stops.
You're already fully booked on Boris.
Yeah, we are booked out to the end of the decade. And this is really rare also, even like in business, Lots of the companies we work with, they have kind of a strategy, but it might even be that the CEO doesn't even have a contract this long to be in position.
Long-term partnership.
So this really enables us to plan ahead and to build the thing on a very solid base.
What your father said to you now, as the man or the father or the competitor?
I'm sure he is proud, and he says that sometimes, but it is also clear, and he says that as well, that it's not his world. He doesn't really identify.
Introvert? Is he introvert?
He is very introvert.
He's German.
Yeah.
Beyond racing, what are your long-term goals in the ocean space?
My long-term goal is to do my best to have an impactful campaign with the Malizia team, both in racing but also on the Explorer boat. And beyond the racing and the Explorer boat, we have other projects. We have an educational program in 11 languages where we already got in touch with 80,000 kids over the last couple of years. We have a huge mangrove park in the Philippines. Mangroves are really good for the environment and the climate and the local people, because they get a lot of money there to plant all these mangroves. Really, that is one of the most beautiful projects, our mangrove park. That's something I really like. So we try to work with each company that supports us on specific positive impact campaigns.
Is it easy to get money from companies now to support your climate project?
We found a very specific niche of combining a sport with a kind of media impact and a sustainability discussion. And the sport is a symbol for a kind of proactive, kind of positive ambition of following the transition towards cleaner technology, higher efficiency, less pollution, using more the power
less
of nature.
Less plastic as well, yeah.
We don't use plastic bottles, but apart from that, lots of the things we have is plastic. Our sails are plastic, the boat is in carbon fiber and so on. But yeah, of course, we really try to not contribute to plastic waste in the ocean. In many other levels, trying to be a good example. It's not always easy, especially flying around so much. But what I find even more important is, again, the kind of impact on society in a wider sense. That with one of our shipping company partners, for example, Hapag-Lloyd, we really pushed them. I'm in the sustainability commission there. We pushed them to research in depth the sail propulsion for the cargo vessels. Huge telescopic masts that come out that got developed on Energy Explorer in the parts. So with each partner, we try to identify one project where we really have a tangible objective of progressing something towards the better.
It's good. I understand your point. And what's your message to the new generation of sailors and athletes? And I think it's not just about winning, but meaning, no?
Exactly, yeah. I think there's great satisfaction for us in looking further than just the pure performance. And I love excellence, and I'm fascinated by competition and performance. But I could never do only that. So, and I find a lot of value in that. And I think also value for our team and our network of partners and stakeholders, because we can connect and relate to a wider group of people by extending the purpose of the team beyond the pure sport.
If someone, Boris, has never seen the ocean or been on a boat, how would you explain and what it gives you?
It gives you life. There would be no life on the planet without the ocean. And I think we can also feel that when we come to the ocean. This is where we come from.
From the ocean, from water. What gives you really hope these days regarding the ocean?
Really hope these days gives me all the great people we run into that all want to do a little difference, either in their company or in whatever activity someone is in. I think everywhere we can try to, be curious and be fascinated by the curiousness for looking for ideas to change things. That's really what triggers me. And I find so many other people wanting to do the same and going with a great motivation for searching a better fabric, a better button, a better yarn.
Like ECOALF.
What?
Like
ECOALF, but also this company here with these shirts, we try them to make more sustainable. And that's in fashion, you can find that in shipping, you can find really within the big companies, even the big polluting companies. I'm sure even within Shell and Total and these traditionally big polluters, you find people there that really try to also make a difference. So I think we should never lose hope and just try to accelerate and motivate.
Keep going, yeah. If you had to describe, but I think you already answered, but this is the question. If you had to describe the ocean in just one word, what would it be?
Life.
Like Prince, like Princess, like Ocean Ramsey, you are the perfect. And I have a question from our previous guest, and her question is, in order to save the ocean, what would you attempt to do if you knew you would not fail?
If I knew I would not run into too big problems, like in this very hypothetical question, then I would organize and motivate a group of pirate sailing boats stopping all the illegal fishing that happens around the oceans.
And now, what question would you leave for the next guest on Bluetiful Stories, Boris?
Is there anything we can do for you to help you with ocean protection, with this boater?
Thank you. That's amazing. So I will transmit. And then could you...
please make a connection. That would be great. Yeah.
For sure. And now could you please write a special note in our golden book? This is a message for the ocean. What you want, a wish, a note, a quote from you. Boris, thank you.
Thanks so much for watching. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more Bluetiful stories. The ocean has many more voices to reveal, and we'd love to have you with us on this journey. See you soon, underwater.